When we started making animated videos on Bitcoin, we didn't know about Solana at all. If you look for Solana on YouTube, you'll find numerous results, but there isn't a single video that covers everything. Welcome to Altcoin Bull, the most popular crypto educational channel on YouTube. We're going to explain what Solana is in this video. These are only some of the technological advancements that they have over Ethereum. We'll talk about certain tokenomics and how they might be used to forecast cryptocurrency prices. First, let's talk about the basics of Solana, why this is so wonderful, and who made it. First white paper was written by Anatoly Akavenko. Aside from the fact that he's extremely brilliant, you should know that he spent a decade working on Qualcomm. Akavenko named his blockchain after the Solana beach that was dear to him. However, let's take a closer look at why Solana's price has risen so dramatically in recent months. To begin with, Solana has a 400 millisecond block time, which implies they're lightning fast, especially when compared to Ethereum's 10-second block time or Bitcoin's 10-minute block period. Solana also claims to be able to handle up to 710,000 transactions per second. This is around 30 times the amount handled by Visa at the moment. Solana network is quick, massive, and inexpensive, with transaction fees at 100 of a penny. So what makes them so quick and affordable? The consensus method is the first thing we must explain. This is a fancy way of saying that everyone agrees on the definition of a blockchain. They don't utilize proof of labor and don't use proof of stake at all. In his white paper, Anatoly described a novel approach called proof of history. It's essentially proof of stake, but with the addition of the time variable. It's important to understand that proof of history is not a consensus mechanism, but rather a method of incorporating time into blockchain data. To place a specific date and time on the blocks, we utilize something called timestamps. We do this so that validators may be sequenced very quickly. Basically, so they can submit blocks in the correct order without having to speak back and forth. Other blockchains face a significant challenge and they must agree on a timeline. We'll take this for granted. But computers must be running at all times, regardless of the hour, because they can't look at their phone or even the sun to figure it out. Other blockchains require nodes to communicate back and forth until they reach an agreement on a time. This must be completed prior to submitting a block. This conversation can eat up a lot of time in the digital world. Solana solves this by requiring everyone to date their blocks and use a cryptographic proof. They don't need to wait for everyone to agree on a time. Basically, after the event, we may agree on how the data in the block should be organized. We do not need to wait for other validators to review and approve our work. Let's take a look at one of the most well-known whiteboard crypto stories. Consider the following scenario. If you want everyone in your family to write you a letter and deliver it to you on the same day, you must first send them a letter, and then they must send you all their letters. The time it takes for both of your letters to arrive in the mail is considerable. What if you just said the next time you saw them, "Hey, send me a letter at 4 p.m. on January 3rd. You could say you wouldn't have to waste time or resources asking them to do it. To cut a long story short, you could schedule your uncle's letter on January 3rd, your aunt's letter on January 4th, your cousin's letter for January 5th, and your grandma's letter on January the 6th. We'd want to read these letters in chronological sequence, but the problem is that they're all sent by various mail services. UPS and FedEx, as you know, take varying periods of time, and your uncle is on a business trip, so he's thousands of miles away. It's possible that if they all send their letters on the same day, they won't arrive in the same sequence. However, they included the time that their letters were actually sent in the letter, so that you can categorize them when you receive them. Essentially, proof of history permits nodes to continue throwing blocks at us indefinitely. Because some people have access to the internet at a faster speed than others, we may presume they're telling the truth about the date they sent them, then sort them once we get them and upload them to the blockchain. Of course, by the way, our aunt, uncle, cousin, and grandmother were all just various persons sending in blocks in this comparison. We can use math to determine that our uncle's letter was written on January the 3rd. Another noteworthy feature of Solana is that it has around 25 blocks being authenticated by 25 users at the same time. This is how they're able to outperform Visa by such a big margin. Speaking of how they're related to proof of stake, one aspect of Solana that I like was that there are no prerequisites to be a validator. To compare Ethereum 2.0, you'll need about 32 Ethereum, which is about $100,000. To vote each day on Solana, you only need to hold a tiny quantity of the coin and pay a charge. But there's a catch. The only thing I don't like is the voting charge. It's around 1 Solana each day right now, so it's roughly $70,000 a year, which is quite expensive. Next, let's discuss something that no other major blockchain has attempted. It's called sea level. And it's just a fun metaphor to describe the fact that validators can run smart contract code in parallel. Now, if you're not a programmer, let me explain it to you in layman's terms. Assume you have to do the dishes, switch the laundry, and sweep the floor. Because there is only one human, each of these tasks must be completed in order. This is referred to as a serial task. They came one after the other. In terms of Solana, the phrase parallel refers to the ability to complete all of them at the same time. It's like you could duplicate yourself and do the dishes, switch out the clothes, and sweep the floor all at the same time. Solana can essentially process their smart contracts in this way. Another thing I noticed on their website was this quote. This describes how hardware, rather than software or ideas, is the bottleneck. Our network's computing capability will double every time NVIDIA doubles the number of SIMD lanes. It will be fascinating to observe how Bitcoin and Ethereum deal with the supercomputers that we will have in 10 to 50 years. Before we go into the tokenomics of Sol, it's worth noting that Solana's smart contracts are substantially different from Ethereum's. To operate its Solidity code, Ethereum employs virtual machine technology. Solana is a programmer who uses the Rust programming language. Rust is a very low-level language, which means it has a lot more power but also requires a lot more effort to construct things. One disadvantage is that, unlike many other blockchains, developers cannot just copy and paste their software and projects from the Ethereum network. Everything has to be coded from the ground up. They will, however, be more powerful than Ethereum smart contracts. Finally, let's delve into tokenomics, because I know a lot of people watch our videos to have a better understanding of how a coin or a project works before investing in it. This is just a friendly reminder that we never give investment advice and we will never contact you to request money. So the Sol coin is the coin on the Solana network. It's a cryptocurrency that's used for transaction fees and is found throughout the blockchain ecosystem. Solana is both inflationary and deflationary as far as I can determine. It's deflationary since 100% of all transaction fees were burned for a long period. The percentage of people who are burned is now around 50%. It's also inflationary because they recently established an inflation plan that pays out roughly 8% in staking rewards. However, they are reduced by a very small amount every few days until the final staking rewards reach 1.5% in 10 years. They began with a total quantity of roughly 500 million tokens. Of course, due to the proof of stake payouts, it will continue to rise. On the subject of early distribution, before their inaugural ICO, they have 4 private investment rounds. Those 4 funding rounds, as well as their initial coin offering, sold roughly 36% of their supply and at a very low price. They were selling these things for less than a quarter each, while the price is now set at $200. Another 13% of the tokens went to their project's creators, another 10% to the Solana Foundation, and the other 39% went to the fund community projects, which are also currently owned by the foundation. Something strange I discovered was that there was a Solana wallet with almost 13 million tokens, and no one knew why. As a result, they just set fire to a large number of them. It's certainly worth noting. Another point worth noticing is that in December of 2020, Solana was down for about 6 hours. To be honest, this makes me nervous because a decentralized protocol should never go down. It signifies that everyone in the network was affected by the same bug. However, this issue had no bearing on the price. This news appears to have caused no panic selling. Finally, Solana is still in beta testing. If you're an investor or planning to create a dApp for them, you should be aware of this. Once again, this is the Altcoin Bull channel, bringing you the best and most updated news and trends in the crypto world. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you and see you in the next one.